how to be prepared and be comfortable for the entire experience, whatever might happen.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Amplify Horse Racing Podcast. I'm Annise Montplaisir, joined by my lovely co-host, Kaitlin Christopherson of GSS, the marketing agency. It is the middle of summer, I guess. The Midsummer Derby, the Travers Stakes at Saratoga is almost here. I'm actually in Saratoga at the moment, hosting behind-the-scenes Amplify Horse Racing, which is what sort of inspired today's educational episode, which we'll introduce in a second. But Kaitlin, you've been all over. You were in California. You're about to be in West Virginia. What's up in the world?
It's been a lovely 2 weeks in Sonoma at the Sonoma Horse Park. That was absolutely amazing. I don't think you could ask for a better horse venue. It's cool at night and it doesn't get super hot during the day. It's right on the water and it's beautiful. That was fantastic. And then, heading to Charlestown Classic. So really excited for that. It looks like we have some really great fields and a bunch of big name jockeys coming in. So we'll see we'll see Mike Smith himself, as well as both Ortiz brothers, Florent. Yeah, excited. And the weather is much cooler there. We're definitely in midsummer because today is the hottest day that it's been so far in Houston. So
what's the temperature?
I don't know, like 110.
Gosh. Meanwhile, here in Saratoga, I think it's maybe around 68 right now. So it is, it's chilly enough.
Yeah, so jealous. It's like, how can you even say that to me?
I wanted to comment, that's a cool point that you made about Charlestown and having a lot of those really big name sort of celebrity jockeys, because a lot of times, mid-level tracks like that, they have their local jockey colony, which are, all great riders that would be used by that trainer population, but it has to be really exciting too when you have big name horses.
It's really exciting. Their fans love to see it. And I know our track announcer, Paul Espinoza at Charlestown, he gets really excited about calling different names in different horses than you typically see on the circuit there. Really excited. It's always a fun day, fun night.
That's so cool.
They've made it a really big event in the past few years. They've added a lot of activations to it. So there's a ton of food trucks. Last year there was a petting zoo with probably, 50 different types of animals. They've had, like fire throwers, all sorts of fun things. So it's made it a really cool, exciting evening for everybody.
Yeah, that's so cool. So if anybody is around or near West Virginia or within driving distance of Charlestown Racetrack, put it into your
it's a pretty great drive from DC, about 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Baltimore too.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And that's that brings up another great tie-in to today's episode, whether you're on your way to a track like Charlestown for the first time, or you're making your first visit to Saratoga, or you're going to a county fair race meet. Kaitlin and I thought that it would be very useful to, regardless of what level or what depth of racing fan you are or where you are in your career journey, understanding how to prepare for going to a track, from morning training on the backstretch to the front side, learning the flow of, the horse walking paths, knowing where the horses are going when they're on their way to morning training or on their way to the paddock to be saddled for the races. So we were, going through some mistakes that we've made over time, or mistakes that we've seen.
That's why I'm laughing, because I'm sharing with, before we started recording, I was sharing with Annise, even growing up as a horse girl, I can't believe that when I was getting back into it, I still didn't know better than to do some of the things that I did. But yeah, we want to we want to make sure you guys are well prepared and that you can have the absolute best time, this applies to whether you're going to the track or if you're going to do horse country, farm visits, how to be prepared and be comfortable for the entire experience, whatever might happen.
Yeah. And also prepare for in case the unexpected happens and you get to do something really cool.
The only unexpected thing that has never happened to me is somebody saying, ride this horse. But other than that.
That is so funny. I still carry an extra set of paddock boots and a helmet in my car, usually just in case. But not saying that anybody listening right now has to do that, but you just never know. So let's start on the backstretch. When you're going to morning training, which right now Team Amplify is in the midst of doing these behind-the-scenes educational tours for middle school, high school, and college students, starting on the backstretch of Saratoga and then going to the front side. And it's a super cool, immersive experience. But I have realized that even when we try to prepare people the best that we can through an email, there are always better ways of trying to convey how to come properly prepared. And I'd say my first one, whether you're on the backstretch or on the front side, is proper footwear. And when I say closed-toed shoes, I also mean closed-toed without holes. So no Crocs.
Sneakers or boots. It has to be sneakers or boots. And shoes that you don't mind if they get dirty. Because I would say it's about half the time, it's half and half. There's a ton of mud and they get super dirty, or they come through relatively unscathed, but you definitely don't want to be wearing your best shoes when you're.
Yeah, great point. And also, shoes that you're going to feel comfortable walking a distance in, because it's easy, regardless of what track you're at. A backstretch stable area is pretty spread out. So it's not hard to put on maybe more than a mile of steps in the morning.
Especially if you're going to go from which most people do, they'll go to the track, they'll watch morning works, right? And then they'll go back to the barns. So that adds a whole other component at some tracks to the walking portion of it.
Yeah. Okay. So we've determined boots, sneakers, and when I say boots, I would think like paddock boots, Chelsea boots, mud boots. I've got those little wellies that are the ankle high mud boots. They're amazing. Or, something that you feel comfortable getting dirty and you're not going to have mud seeping in between your toes, because that is no fun.
Or have a chance of getting stepped on by a horse, because I've also seen that happen. And yeah, you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, great point. And you mentioned walking to the track to watch morning works and morning training, walking back to the barn. It's important to understand that there is an etiquette of movement on the backstretch where horses always have the right of way. Generally, if you see a dirt path, that's reserved as a horse path. There are a lot of dirt paths on the backstretch of Saratoga, or, when you see streams of horses coming out of a barn, trying to be on the handler side if there's somebody leading that horse. And, just trying to always be cognizant of what's coming towards you, behind you, to the left, to the right, anything jumping out of a barn that you might not have initially noticed, but always giving horses the right of way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And also to go back to proper apparel, I will say one thing that I highly recommend, I don't know, Annise, if you've ever had this experience, but I recommend long pants, jeans, or leggings, because I feel that anytime I've worn shorts, there are a lot of bugs. Like, we're around horses and it can be muddy and whatnot. So sometimes those flies really bite, and you'll be swatting at bugs, especially in the summer too, if there's been some rain and the mosquitoes come out. So I highly recommend long pants.
Great point. Long pants, wearing layers on top.
Yes.
It can be chilly. If you get to the track at, say, 5:30, as soon as the track opens, or as the sun rises. I don't know if you've noticed this, but Kaitlin especially feels like the coldest place on earth. As the sun starts to come up, the temperature actually drops a little bit because the sun rises on the opposite side of the grandstand. So wearing layers that, are going to keep you warm if it's chilly in the morning, because even right now, middle of August, Saratoga, I'm bundled up here in a sweatshirt, wearing a jacket when I go outside, but then you can take them off as you go through the morning and still stay comfortable throughout, the morning training part of your day.
Yes.
And you mentioned
bring water. I would say bring water with you. I typically always wear a ball cap. But you also want to keep in mind that you don't want to be carrying a lot of things. So if it's possible to bring a backpack or something where you can store things, because you want your hands free. But sometimes if you're, say, Ubering to the track, that's not all that simple, right? You can't just go put stuff in your car. So definitely consider bringing like a comfortable backpack or something.
Yeah, that's a great consideration. I had also jotted down, bring water, cash, a snack, because even, like if you're spending 3 hours in the morning at the track, you might want to get a snack from the track kitchen. A lot of tracks have a backstretch kitchen, which we would refer to as the track kitchen, or they have little mobile kitchens, people who will drive around in these little kitchen vehicles, and you can purchase food, usually really good breakfast food from, but a lot of them are cash only.
Yes.
So just stick
I still forget that.
Yeah, I've done it several mornings here at the track where I've just been dying for a coffee or a tea, and it's only $2.50 or something, and I just don't have cash on me, and then you're out of luck.
Yes.
So yeah, long pants, layers, carry something like a backpack so that you've got your stuff, your water, your cash. And, maybe something we should have started with would be credentialing requirements to get onto the backstretch. Something to remember is that if you're new to the industry, you generally, and most tracks, cannot just rock up to the stable area and just walk right in, because basically everybody who works in or is involved in racing from the horse side of things has to be licensed or credentialed, whether that's a media credential or whether that's a owner's license, trainer's license, groom's license. It shows that you, just like a driver's license, are allowed to be in that place working around the horses. And so a newcomer generally can't just rock up to a track without having some kind of special permission. Either you're the guest of someone, or maybe you get a special pass. Like I keep referencing Saratoga, but here if you have a specific purpose to be on the backstretch in the stable area, or you're doing a visit with another person, you still have to go to the security office and get a pass that has your name and the date that you're to be admitted onto the backstretch, so that you're not just wandering around. Or if somebody did say, hey, can I see your badge? You can show them that you are indeed allowed to be there.
Yes. And if you're not sure, I think something that we suggest to a lot of people on this podcast is be willing to reach out and check, right? So some tracks offer tours. I know Kaitlin, they do, Kaitlin will be starting here in another month. They do a morning kind of breakfast at the track where they open the apron to visitors to come and watch the morning works. And then I think they might have some sort of tour component, or Horse Country does, where you can explore the backside a little bit. But make sure to reach out and see if somebody is available to take you around. Tell them that you're interested in getting into the industry, what you're currently working on and what you're working towards. And you never know what doors it might open.
Yeah, great point. Tours are an awesome first option for being able to go onto the backstretch. And a lot of times they're either free to very inexpensive. You're going with a trusted guide who a lot of times gives you some history of the track, probably knows a lot of the connections, the owners, trainers, jockeys, and can point them out to you. And they know their way around. So you're not just, aimlessly wandering the backstretch of the track. So check out to see if the track you're visiting has a tour or if there's another entity that offers tours. And, Amplify over here generally has a good read on what tracks have free tours, or maybe we're even doing some kind of programming. So you can even reach out to us and we can help do that legwork for you. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Tours. Oh, one thing I wrote down, where to find a bathroom. Sometimes bathrooms on the back can be difficult.
It can be scarce.
Yeah. So I would say track kitchens are your go-to. Usually they always have a bathroom and you can generally always use it regardless of whether you're purchasing something or not. A lot of track bathrooms are kind of scattered throughout the backstretch, so you kind of have to stumble upon one or ask somebody, hey, where's the closest restroom? Or I guess when in doubt, most places usually have a porta potty or two by the guard shack. When you enter the backstretch of the track, a lot of the entrances will have a guard standing there checking people's credentials, and a lot of times they will have a porta potty. I don't know what other options to suggest there other than ask around, and if you wander enough, you will eventually find a bathroom. But it's good to have that figured out, or just go before you get to the track or before you start your tour, because it's never fun to be wandering a mile-long backstretch bathroom. Have been there before, definitely.
We've all been there.
Yeah. Well, one more thing. When you pack your backpack, I don't know, what do you think about umbrellas, Kaitlin? Because I usually say leave the umbrella at home or don't.
Yeah.
You can bring it to the front side generally.
I personally have never taken an umbrella. I'm going to put on a raincoat and tough it out. To me, that's kind of the only option, because umbrellas and horses generally do not mix together. Horses get very, very startled by the opening and the closing on umbrellas, even them just kind of being twirled around. So, probably a good idea to leave those at home and just plan to get a little wet.
Yeah. Definitely bring your rain jacket if it looks like it's going to rain. I caution people against bringing umbrellas on the backstretch. You can bring them to the front side, the grandstand area, but even then you're going to want to check the rules of that track and whether umbrellas are allowed. Generally, Kaitlin mentioned the apron earlier, which is the area that's between the grandstand and the track. It's kind of flat, open area where people would watch the races at the ground level. A lot of times I'd caution people against whipping out your umbrella there because the horses are going to be able to see it. But when in doubt, ask somebody, ask a security guard, ask somebody who works at the track, or do a Google or a search of that track's website before you go.
Yes.
Well, should we move on to the front side? Did we skip anything on the backstretch?
I think that about covers it. I mean, it's taken me a while. I've been wondering backsides for quite a long time, working in social media now and content gathering, and it took me a while to get it all figured out, but I think that's a pretty good overview.
Actually, right as I said that, I thought about one last thing that people who are new to the track might not realize. Don't go into a barn without permission. Generally, there are specific areas where you'll see people gather to watch morning training, like along the rail of the track. And so unless you're there with somebody to see a particular horse, or somebody in a certain barn, always ask permission before entering the barn. Don't just walk into a random barn, because it's sort of like, somebody told me this great analogy once. It's kind of like walking into a professional football team's locker room.
Yeah.
You wouldn't walk in on these athletes.
Or even somebody's home, honestly. It's you wouldn't just wander into somebody's, it's where these horses are living for this duration of time. Always err on the side of caution, of being respectful. And if you're new to it, the absolute best way, don't just show up and hope for the best. Make sure you're with a tour guide or a professional.
Yeah. Ask before you touch things, especially in the barn.
Yeah. General rule of thumb is don't touch anything, especially with HISA. People, it's looked, what we can even do as credentialed representatives on the backside, everybody is just hyper cautious now, as they should be. So touching horses, unless you have express permission, is forbidden. Touching their equipment, their tack, anything like that.
Yeah, great point. If you haven't heard that acronym, it's Racing Integrity and Safety Authority, which also works in conjunction with the Horse Racing Integrity and Welfare Unit. HIWU is another acronym you'll hear. So there is a lot of testing. There are strong rules and regulations in the sport. And so as a bystander, you wouldn't want to be compromising a horse by touching them, and you might have something on your hand that you don't even know, such as caffeine. How many of us drink coffee? That's a substance that the horses cannot have. So be cognizant of what you touch, asking before you touch, or just don't touch. Okay, front side. I think we have fully exhausted all backside suggestions. Man, where do we start here? I guess footwear again. Are you a heels or a no heels, or depends on the day person?
Depends on the day. Yes. Depends what I'm there for. Certainly no stilettos. Anything that's super pointy or looks like it belongs on a runway. Don't wear. If you're going to wear heels, wear like a block heel or a wedge.
Yeah, whether you're male or female, it seems like after COVID, it became a lot more chill to wear dress pants with like white sneakers, or a dress with white sneakers, or having that more casual, comfortable footwear, even if you're more dressed up on top. I will always say,
we're big fans too of like the dress and white sneakers look.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 would agree with that. I have a lot of pairs of white sneakers because it looks classy, it's comfortable, it will save your feet. I have destroyed, this is probably the biggest mistake that I've made, and I've made it multiple times throughout my not super long career in racing. I've destroyed my feet over and over again, and not necessarily always wearing heels, but thinking through footwear that is going to get you through a day of, usually you're standing on concrete, or you're standing a lot, or you're walking a lot. If you're working, you're going to be hustling around. You might be on grass if you're in the paddock. So, if you need arch support, if it's going to kill your back, if you don't have shoes with arch support, just go for the comfy shoes, even if they're a little bit less attractive.
Yes.
Footwear. That's always a good place to start. So how about hats?
I'd say the other thing, I would say, hats and sunscreen. Because depending if you're, even some grandstands you can still get a lot of light, and not all of them are covered. So even if you're not going to be, generally when you're on the apron, which we discussed is right in front of the track and, a big concrete pad area, you're going to get a lot of sun out there. But just being at the track, especially if you're going out to the paddock, to see the horses pre-race and then going back to watch, you're going to be exposed to the sun. It's a full day outside. So sunscreen and hats. For me on hats, I'm not really a hat person. So I leave the hats for like Derby and Oaks, pretty much. At Breeders' Cup, I will wear a fascinator, but of course, that's not for sun protection. That's just for looks. So that's my thought on hats for ladies. And then for men, something that's very popular is if you are connected to a specific horse or a breeding farm or something, a racing stable, wearing ball caps to represent that. And then also I kind of like the straw fedoras. I think those are very, very nice and fit in well at the track and are very popular as well.
Yeah, I agree. I love hats. I'm more of I do love a good fascinator too. I think fascinators are super fun, but I do prefer to have my face and ears covered. And so every now and then, I'm not a big shopper, but if I find a hat that works well for my face shape and seems like it would be versatile to wear with a multitude of different dresses at the races, I do try to wear a hat. And that's a great point on the sunscreen. I have seen some people roast at the races, especially if you're working all day and you're running around.
Right. And that's another, talking about roasting, like know the weather. The weather at the track can be very unpredictable, especially when you're in places like Saratoga. But, wear the appropriate dress or outfit for the weather. So if it's spring or summer, men look into a lighter suit. And ladies look into lighter dresses, stay away from the heavier materials. Because I've definitely, you don't want to be uncomfortably hot or cold. So layers is still a good, bring a little jacket or blazer that you can take on and off. But keep that in mind for sure.
That makes me think of Kaitlin College Scholarship Day in the spring, especially, can either be mid-60s or mid-40s.
Yeah.
And I have seen many a times where, I won't just pick on the ladies, but, a lot of times dresses cover a lot less than a coat and pants will for men. So they'll put on these very small dresses because they're excited. It's springtime. They're going to the track a lot of times for the first time. And Keeneland it was actually developed as a training center. So the sun rises behind the grandstand. So you don't have the sun in your eyes when you're watching morning training. But now that it's, a racetrack where there is training and racing, the sun sets right over the track. So it can be very hot on one side, but then on the paddock side, tremendously shaded. And there's a huge temperature difference between the two. So I've seen people absolutely freeze their butts off. And
I've done that. I have.
It makes a really not fun day at the track.
Yes.
You said something else about staying cool, shorts and jeans when you're at the races. Kaitlin and I were also talking about this before we hit record. Also be cognizant of, you might get lucky during the day and get a really cool opportunity to do something or go into an area that has a restricted dress code. That might sound a little bit archaic, but there are a lot of different places that you can go within the track and you'll have a different experience at each one. So you can go in shorts and a t-shirt to certain areas if you just want to have a chill day, hang out with friends. But especially if you are going to be in sort of a business, professional, or networking type setting, dress as if you are going to potentially be going into one of the more restricted areas, like a clubhouse is a word that you'll hear that often has a dress code where men might need to have a jacket and tie. Ladies might need to have a dress of a certain length or a certain amount of coverage on top. The paddock area, in Saratoga, you're not allowed to wear shorts, and generally rompers are kind of a no-no in some paddock areas. So dress for success and the opportunities that you might want to have in your day.
Absolutely.
I guess jeans too are kind of bundled in with shorts in a way. Like you probably can't wear jeans in the clubhouse, right?
No, correct. Yeah. And again, it goes back to do your research. But so I believe if you go on the Keeneland website or Saratoga, it'll tell you for certain areas what that dress code is, but also be flexible because you never know when a friend or somebody's going to say, "Hey, I have 2 extra seats at my table. Like, do you want to come up?" And then you don't want to say, "Oh, I wore shorts today, so I can't," or I wore, an inappropriate dress. I don't feel comfortable being in a business attire setting. So yeah, absolutely do a little research, make sure plan accordingly. But generally, yes, no jeans. I don't think jeans are just very popular. Well, I love them for the backside. To wear them to the track, no matter what type of situation you're in, because I don't know, they're just not very popular.
I guess I see them on a lot of people. Like if people are leading up horses for the races, I've even seen assistant trainers,
Right?
Even trainers wear like a blazer.
Exactly. But they're working, and they're likely not going to have a chance to go in the dining area for a drink at that point. So yeah, just keep in mind all of the potentials.
Yeah, and this all varies track by track. Like you're going to have some tracks where even the fancy areas are going to be considerably more casual than other tracks, and that's where Kaitlin keeps saying, do your research ahead of time. And again, I'll say you can reach out to Amplify if you're going to be going to a track and you have a question. We'll know, or we'll know someone who will know, and we'll be able to give you an idea of probably how you should dress and prepare for that race day. When you come to a Saratoga, the dressy areas are going to be a lot dressier than the North Dakota Horse Park in Fargo. The dressy areas are probably still going to be a kind of wear what you want sort of situation. So you can also plan accordingly based on where you're going to.
Yes. I always feel, we always Uber to the track, but even is a little bit of like a veteran, I guess now, I want to bring like at least 2 outfit changes with me for when I'm there. It's still a little difficult to nail something down sometimes, but
yeah. And if you have a bag, it doesn't hurt to throw in an extra pair of shoes.
Absolutely.
That's always, if I'm not Ubering, which it's a little bit different if you're maybe taking a ride to hitching a ride from somebody else or doing a ride share sort of deal. But I always bring extra shoes in my car.
Yes, absolutely.
What is your go-to race day item that you have to have with you that make your experience better?
That is a good one. I would say sunglasses, 100%. Yeah. Absolutely. And a good lip balm.
Yes. Wow, that is great. That's a really good point. I'm guilty for forgetting my sunglasses far too often. I would say I'm really into, and this is more of a something that women would use, but I really love the shawl look. Whether I'm, a little bit more casual or a little dressier, it's something that's super easy to take on and off, and it's not very bulky to just shove in a bag. And then binoculars. I personally love having a small pair of binoculars on me in the case that, I can see across the other side of the track. And it just gives you a little more, a more simulated up close experience. Even if you're a distance away from the horses, you can really get in and see some detail of the race and follow more closely.
Definitely.
Are you a racing program, a racing form, or a pocket program kind of person?
If I'm just at the track enjoying the day, I prefer a program. If I'm working, I prefer the pocket program because it's a lot easier to reference really quickly and have it held in the same, hand as my phone. Um, so yeah, that's my take. But my fiance, when he goes, he's just going as general observer and handicapper, and he actually prints out his own PPs and takes them in a manila folder that he can make notes on and things like that. So yeah, that's his go-to.
That's a great point. Another thing to check online before you go, because a lot of tracks, I know Keeneland for sure does it, where you can print out past performances from their website for each race day. So you don't have to purchase a program when you get to the track.
Mm-hmm.
It has all of the horses, previous races or running lines listed. It has a good amount of detail about the horses, past performances, their connections, all of that. You can also purchase that when you get to the track. If you want to get really, really in depth on the information, a daily racing form has a lot of information that a lot of gamblers or handicappers like to look at. And then a pocket program has basically what horse's name, owner, trainer, jockey,
post position, morning line, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you're going to be running around and posting stuff, like if you're working, having a pocket program handy is a great idea. Oh, let's see. What else do I have on the list? I guess just knowing the flow of horses is going to help enhance your experience. And so I would recommend, if somebody's visiting a track for the first time, for them to walk around and just kind of scope out where everything is. Some tracks have sort of a pre-paddock kind of holding area that horses might go into, or they might walk around the track directly into the saddling paddock, where they have all their tack and equipment put on, and then they head out onto the track for what we call the post parade, which is the warm-up time where the horses go from, the entering the paddock or entering the track back to the starting gate to start the race. And you have your race, and they'll come back usually to the area around the winner's circle where the winner has their photo taken. And then the horses will head back either to their barn. They'll be untacked on the track, head back to their barn, or usually it's the first place, second place, and a random horse will go to the detention barn, which is the area where post-race testing is conducted. Okay, final comments. Have we missed anything? If you had to summarize, what does a person need on the backstretch? How would you boil it down?
A good pair of shoes, a good pair of jeans, a breathable long sleeve t-shirt, and a ball cap.
Great point. If I had to summarize for the front side, I would say, sunglasses, check the weather before you go, good footwear, dress according to the weather, and then figure out what type of program you want to follow the races. And I think everybody's ready to hit the track.
Have a successful, day at the track. Absolutely.
We'll have so much fun at Charlestown, and
thank you.
This fall, maybe Santa Anita for the Horse Racing Women's Summit, maybe at Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. Who knows where, you'll cross paths with your racing friends along the way, but great episode. Thank you so much.
I really hope this is helpful for everybody. It's like I said, it's taken me longer to figure out some of these things than I'd like to admit. But yeah, it can really impact, kind of how your day is spent, whether it's spent enjoying the day or worrying about something because you didn't dress the right way, or you are miserable in what you wore, etc.
Yeah, for sure. Be prepared, be comfortable, do a little research ahead of time and you're going to have a great day at the track. And when in doubt, either reach out to Kaitlin or myself or Amplify, and we will make sure we find you the answer.